Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
Well, starting off, I left my makeup at the office, so this is me now. But I am doing fan-freaking-tastic.
Good.
And let me tell you why. Because your sister, that I know I've already talked about a week ago, is the best. We have officially booked my vacation.
Ooh.
I am, and my dad has pestered my mom into agreeing to come with me for a few days. So I think she's gonna be there. I'm going Thursday morning through Tuesday night, and she's gonna be there Friday morning or late Thursday night to Monday afternoon.
Okay.
So pretty good span, but I'm going to San Francisco.
Oh, yay.
And I've never been. And I'm so excited. I'm going to do Alcatraz. I'm going to do Wine Country. I'm going to do oh my gosh, the Walt Disney Family Museum. I have so many things. Brie has found all of these activities for me. And I just sent back the ones I was interested in. And she was like, I'll put together a schedule for you. And I was like, ugh, never again will I not use a travel agent. Never again will I not use Brie. Let me be specific. But she can never quit being a travel agent.
Right. I have not started planning my trip with her because I can't get Dan to decide when it's happening. I was obviously it's in the summer. Mm-hmm. And for us, the summer is only July and August because teachers. And I go, so are you thinking July or August? Just give me a month. Which month would you like me to have her start looking? Just that much.
Well, let me tell you.
Can I have that much?
It will take her 1.5 minutes to get you prepared.
I know. I mean, she already knows everything I want to do.
Exactly.
So,
I'm staying at the Executive Vintage Court Hotel, something or other. Every room is vineyard themed. I'm flying JetBlue, which is the best. I'm so excited. I just, because so many terrible things are happening in not only the world, but also my life some days and also your life, and everything is bad. I'm just going to think about San Francisco.
I love that.
I can't.
I don't remember if we talked about it on this podcast or if I just told you about Brianna introducing me to the fact that Delta and Starbucks are now partnered.
I think it was on the podcast, because I feel like it was with your voice. And we haven't talked on the phone this week.
Right.
We just texted.
So Delta Airlines, Starbucks partnership, I have officially linked my accounts, and I got 500 miles just for linking the accounts. And now every time I spend money at Starbucks, I get double miles. So I get miles. So I bought a latte, 6 more miles. And when I linked it, I got 150 bonus stars.
So basically next week you're going to have a free flight, because I know how you buy coffee at Starbucks. And it's $50 a coffee. So
I wish that you were wrong, but you're not.
I know.
And it's going to be fantastic. I'm just going to be randomly it's okay. I can justify buying a $13 coffee because it's giving me airline miles.
Yeah, that's a good thing in general. For you, it's dangerous.
It's the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me. It's also probably the only good thing that happened in my entire week.
Yeah, probably so.
Unfortunately, I am dealing with a lot of death this week, so I don't have a lot to talk about in terms of my personal life. Yeah, that's really, we recorded on Monday, and then because of schedules, we're recording again on Saturday. So I haven't even had a weekend of distracting myself between recording. It's just been a bunch of days of horrible things. So, let's just get right into the spiritual affirmations. This is our shortest catch-up session for the podcast ever.
That's okay, because I have a little bit of a lengthy spiritual affirmation for you.
Okay, I love that.
So, I choose to love not because it's the easiest answer or because it's the simplest path, but because I am the best version of myself when I am loving others and doing what I can to make their time here on earth a little better. So that's how I live, loving first and not worrying about the return. It keeps life simple and it keeps me true to myself. Topher Kirby.
Oh, I love that.
Don't you? I love it too.
That's so good. I think as somebody who like cares a lot about people all the time, like like I said, I've had a really bad week. A lot of people that I know that I love have passed away, and I've been worried about the people that were even closer to them. And I was so overwhelmed by how just like upset I was dealing with everything and stressed out I was at work that I told Dan, I was like, I don't feel like my head and like my brain and my body don't belong to the same person. Like I feel so dissociated from everything in this moment that like at one point during like drama rehearsal with the kids, I was just sitting on the floor and I don't remember anything. And he was like, it's because you are such an empathetic person. You care so much about people that like you can't process your feelings until when you're trying to process other people's feelings.
Right. That is true.
Man, but it's okay because like how I would never want to shut that off. Like that's who I am. I don't know how to be anything else.
And I mean, you feel so much stronger when there's happy feelings too.
That's true.
It's all about balance.
That is true. Okay. So we're going to get right into it.
Wow.
Because this week we watched Stargate SG-1, Season 2, Episode 11. Mm-hmm. And it was called, simply enough, The Tok'ra Part 1.
And I had forgotten what that meant until I started watching the episode. So I did not know where we were going.
Well, don't worry. They didn't let you forget.
They did not. Because I definitely thought that I was clicking on the wrong episode when I started it. And I was like, I think I've seen this. What's happening? And I realized it was a flashback. So.
Yeah, no, I have things to say about that.
Excellent.
So Tok'ra Part 1 was rated 8.0 stars. And it came out on October 2nd, 1998. Same song, same movie, same book. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed. The only interesting fact I could find about October 2nd, 1998, and this is such a weird, interesting fact, but like if you've listened to this podcast and or met me, it makes sense. Today, October 2nd, 1998, was the premiere of the movie Ants, A-N-T-Z, which was the very first full-length DreamWorks animation movie.
Really? I didn't realize it was the very first.
It sure was. So just like, I mean, we've talked at length about my feelings on DreamWorks movies. So I was like, perfect. We'll just talk about Ants. It's great. Now, my favorite fun fact about this whole thing is something that before I say this, I'm going to double check that I'm correct.
Always a good plan.
No, I don't want the chronological order. I want you. Oh no, okay. It was I'm wrong slightly. Except for that about it being the first. But so this movie came out October 2nd, 1998. It was not the first. It was the first DreamWorks movie. What was not first was that I was mistaking what was the first Pixar movie, which is Toy Story.
Yes.
But
correct.
The second ever Pixar movie that also came out in the year 1998 is A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
Ants came out a month and a half before Bug's Life. And I would kill to be John Lasseter on October 3rd, 1998, and just know what it feels like to think about the fact, because at the time, like, it's not like you could just scrap a movie. Toy Story came out in 95. Bugs Life came out in 98. That means for 3 years, this is the only thing they had been working on. And the way Pixar animation was in the 90s, that was intense. And is Bugs Life a better quality movie? Yes. But to have been a fly on the wall in the Pixar offices on October 3rd, 1998, after the official release of Ants, and realizing that they were fucked.
Yep.
That's, oh, I just want to know. I just want to know how that conversation went down.
It wasn't great, I bet.
I bet.
I'm going to guess they took October 3rd off.
We're just going to need a day. Just a day.
I would have taken October 3rd off. So
I would have actually assigned everyone to go watch Ants in theaters to figure out what we can add at this point. Although at this point it's a little late.
Right.
Man, it just, the only reason I bring it up is because it just reminds me of how different the world that we are talking about when we do this podcast is from today. Because like, not to say that like film production doesn't still take years and stuff.
Right.
But like, how many movies in 2022 have they announced that like, we filmed the entire movie, but just fuck it, we're not going to release it?
Yeah.
Like, because that's just not how money is and how entertainment is anymore. And like, having the fact that Pixar and DreamWorks
hand drawn anymore.
Right. And the fact that Pixar and DreamWorks had the whole Bugs Life Ants thing. And then there's another one.
There's a couple of them. I can't off the top of my head.
I can't remember off the top. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but there's a couple of them where these animation studios have the same movie. And not like, then there's the like shitty, cheap, like Chinese animation studios that deliberately copy,
right,
which is a whole other bag of worms.
That's more intentional though.
Yes. But like, you have these things where these movies come out at the same time, but like, and now, but even how many years ago did No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits come out? The same fucking month. Mm-hmm. Like, and the question is it an oversaturation of the market where there is no original stories? Or is it just like the inevitability that all human beings have the same story to tell?
I mean, I think it's the whole concept of there's no new stories. And while that is to an extent true, which is why the law is the way it is on it, because you can't copyright an idea, you can copyright an expression of that idea.
Correct.
And so they're like, every story has been written, but your story hasn't been told. And so while it may be at a base level, you look at it, it's like, here's a love triangle and here's a love triangle. But then one goes to Twilight and one goes to like a rom-com.
Right.
Like, they're completely different films in the end, but sometimes, I mean, if you're using the same space storyline, sometimes you're going to come up with similar ideas still.
Right. Well, because it's interesting because my 8th graders for my creative writing class right now, I'm trying to like do more with them. Like last year, I just kind of like had everybody write stories because I wasn't really sure what I was doing. And it was like, I was just trying to get them to write, but I want them to like think about the shit that they write. And like, and I don't just want them to put words on paper and have it. So like my 7th graders are doing found poetry.
Are doing what? I'm so sorry.
Found poetry. Like we ripped pages out of books and did blackout poetry.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, blackout poetry.
Fascinating though.
Blackout poetry is where you take like a page of an already written book and then you just like circle certain words on the book to create your own poem. And then you like black out the rest of the page. So it's I'll send you pictures or I'll post them on the Instagram or something. But so my seventh graders are doing that. So like, and these kids who like aren't creative, my boys who like hate creative writing, did amazing with this blackout poetry. Like they just, and I got them. I was like, don't tell me what the book is about. Like, don't tell me what the book is about. Don't tell me the same story that's in the book. Tell me what you feel.
Yeah.
And so like the one boy, his book was about this basketball player that ran a farm, and he kept trying to tell me things about him. And I go, don't.
Yeah.
So then his final poem ended up being, the words that he circled just said, the land was empty, nothing. And then the painting that he did with it was just space with nothing in it.
That's so profound.
It was exactly. I was like, these kids don't even understand the art they're making right now because it's so deep, but they're just telling me words that they feel.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I finally like know what I'm doing. But my eighth graders are learning about the hero's journey because I'm gonna their final like overarching writing piece. I'm gonna have them write a hero's journey archetype story. So like last week we worked on like who are the archetypal characters, and now we are started talking about like what is a hero's journey.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to them that like everybody is a hero. And like these archetypes, the reason that they exist is because like everything goes through them. So then we're talking about like the hero's journey in film and the number of movies that you're just like, literally every single story that you know is this story. It's just a little different.
Yep.
So that was my weirdness for. I love how all of that just came out of the fact that Ants premiered this.
Like, I'm telling you, it's how it goes. And like, I'm here to just agree with you because like as a writer, I know when I'm writing stuff, like I'm actively thinking about that every time. Like the book that I've written is like developed enough that I'm out of that mindset now for the book. But like the new book I started on, I have to consciously remind myself to not write Riley Sager's book because I love the style he writes in. And so I want to write a similar style thriller with like, I want people to feel the same when they read my book that I feel when I read Riley Sager's book. But I don't want to tell the same story, obviously. And it's just something you have to like really, because I have to get myself out of like, this is what I think of when I feel that way, because then I just think of that book. I have to make a new story about that feeling.
See, and I think that's why I have never been good at writing prose, or writing stories. Like I write mostly poetry or free verse, so it's like prose, but it's not really. But I only write poetry or free verse because I don't know how to do anything but tell you how I feel. Like the idea of like making it a story, like if a thought resonates with someone, then it does, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But writing something that's compelling enough to get you from beginning to end and make someone want to know what that story is overwhelms me so much that I'm just like, here's another poem.
See, and I'm the opposite. I don't want to sit down and tell you how I feel, but I want you to feel how I feel when I give you what I've written. Like I just want you to know that you don't, but I don't want to tell you. So, which is good that we're different in that way because it helps us. View.
I think it also helps how I think it helps with the podcast because we look at things so differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of, let's talk about the episode.
I'm ready.
It was directed by Brad Turner, right? Yes, who I was like, I think I wrote that name down. Yes, it was directed by Brad Turner, who is returning. He's not one of our like regulars, but he is not new. Yeah. And is written by our dear friend Jonathan Glassner, big baddie of the Stargate universe.
Yes. That is how you would refer to everyone in the Stargate universe. They're big baddies.
The guest star that I would like to talk about is Sarah Douglas, who plays, technically her character has two names. She plays Gorsha / Yusuf. I think I said either of those names correctly, to be honest. I did a terrible job of writing names down today.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. She's known for her role in Superman 1, 2, and 3, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. She was in a lot of like 80s small budget stuff that I had never heard of.
Name a few. Do you have
I did not write any of them down because they were like not even like, they were genuinely things that I had never even heard of, let alone not seen.
Right.
But she was in all 3 Christmas Prince movies.
Which one is that?
It's not the Vanessa Hudgens one.
Yes, correct.
It's the one with the blonde girl.
Yes, correct. I'm following. Yes.
Yes. She played, I think, like the housekeeper in those movies, which is funny because I'm pretty sure a different one of our guest stars was the housekeeper in the Vanessa Hudgens movie.
I think that's correct.
Which is why I was like, I literally had to double check. I was like, did I already talk about Sarah Douglas? I couldn't have because she hasn't been in the show before. But I thought I already wrote this, but it's because the Princess Switch housekeeper,
yes,
was in a different episode.
Right.
So apparently, if you guest star on Stargate, you will then get to play a housekeeper in some Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Once the episode actually starts, we start with a recap, which was jarring.
Very much so. I literally had to look and make sure I clicked on the right episode. Like,
because this is only the second episode ever of Stargate that has a recap. And it's the first one that is not a to be continued that starts with a recap.
Right.
Like, I was like, previously on, what?
Yeah. It was very jarring. It was not anything I had forgotten, but it was a good enough. Like, if you're gonna do it, I guess this is the best way to do it because it set up the episode.
Right. It did set up the episode. It did give you everything that you would want to previously on to give you in terms of what we were going to focus on this episode. I just was so confused because that's not how we do this show. Like, if Bates started an episode without a previously on, I would be confused.
Yes.
But the fact that this show was just like, oh, by the way, a third of the way through the second season, I'm going to remind you that it is halfway. You are correct. Halfway through the second season, I'm going to remind you that sometimes you should know things about the show before you watch the episode.
Right. But they're also like things that just happened recently. And so it's like,
right. No, what
doesn't they were the best use of a previously on when we've never done it before but one time.
Nothing in this previously on was from season 1. If it had been information from season 1, I totally would have been like, you know what? Definitely forgot that from a year ago. Thank you. But half of it was from like episode 3, and then half of it was from quite literally last week.
Yeah.
So it was not my favorite choice.
Yeah.
But anyway, it reintroduced us to everything in Sam's story, all of the Jolinar and Daddy dying information.
It did remind me that this is why I knew the word Tok'ra, but I would have also learned that very quickly into the episode had it not reminded me in the previously one.
Correct.
So.
Because it also then moves from the previously on into the strangest visual choice of telling me that we're in a dream that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I like literally was like, either they've made a choice with their new camera work or someone's dreaming. Like that's it. It was in fact a dream. But it was Sam having a vision of Joel and I remembering escape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And remembering dialing the gate to where the Tok'ra were escaping to. So Sam wakes up and she's attached to a machine that's like checking her brainwaves while she's like having this dream. And she's like, I know something. and then we get the credits.
Yeah. So this was a very weird opening, and as much as I enjoyed this episode as a whole, I could have done with the intro being different.
Oh no, I think that this is probably one of the best episodes of the season so far after the credits, because
Exactly.
both the previously on and the cold open were not well done.
No, absolutely not. It's like, I don't know. It's like you would think that we had both a new director and writer for this episode based on how it went.
But no
they're
one,
both returning.
yeah, no one is new.
No.
I mean, maybe the cinematographer is new, but I didn't look that up because I don't actually have jack shit idea about what a cinematographer does most of the time. But and here's the thing. What episodes did Brad Turner direct?
Quite a few already, right?
Yeah. But so I'm saying like maybe, I know this episodes in season 1 that Brad Turner directed, I had already looked this up, were both really good episodes too. I know one of them was Hathor, which was not visually anything like weird. Season 1, he directed, of course, now my phone is going to load, Thor's Hammer and Hathor.
So like 2 of the best from season 1.
Yeah, and then this is his first in season 2. So he directed Thor's Hammer and Hathor, which were storyline-wise phenomenal and had some cool visual stuff. Like the visual stuff in Hathor was dope.
Yeah.
But nothing that was like weird.
Right.
So like, I mean, and Jonathan Glassner, he's written the entire show, basically. I mean, like he and Brad Wright literally have written or produced or like overseen the writing of the entire show. Yeah. So, and it's not the dialogue that's weird, it's the visual stuff. So like that is definitely more director. And I just don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know that they knew. Maybe they shot this episode before they did the other 2 that he did, since they shot them all they did season 1 and 2 at the same time. And
they did do season 1 and 2 relatively at the same time. I don't know like what the directing blocks were. Like I know they had season 1 and 2 ordered at the same time, but I don't necessarily know that they filmed things super out of order. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know. Like I know that they filmed the 3-parter that was the beginning of season 1 and season 2 all together.
Right.
But I don't know if they were like, because I know shooting blocks aren't the same as when it does, and sometimes you shoot the end of the season before the beginning, just depending on location and stuff. But I know Brad Turner directs, I think 4 or 5 episodes of season 2, so I can see this being in a production block with those episodes rather than the things he did in the first season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Very, very confusing.
When we get to the rest of his episodes.
Yeah, maybe this is actually his style and the first 2 were a fluke.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But so then after the credits, the team is like interviewing Sam about her vision. Then she was like, I saw this. I think we need to go check it out and find the Tok'ra. And they're like, how do you know it's not just like a weird dream? And she's like, I don't know. I just know. And so then Hammond's like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, sure, no questions.
He seems a little out of character this episode.
He does some of the time.
But then, yeah.
And it's like he flows too much. Like he doesn't have any pushback on anything.
Right. Like his intention and his heart don't feel out of character, but he's just kind of like, I'm letting things happen.
Right. Like here it's like he let this happen. And then like with her dad later, I was like, well, that feels like a normal response for him. Like, but it's also like more mild than normal because it's a sensitive issue. Like, so it is, I agree. Very weird.
Yeah. I also realized while taking notes for this episode that he is the only character that I do not ever refer to by their first name. ever.
Really? Like in this episode or just like in general?
In general, in my notes, never and never in the entire season and a half. Like Dr. Fraser, sometimes I say Dr. Fraser, sometimes I say Janet. Like my notes switch between Jack and O'Neill all the time. I call Sam and Daniel and Teal only by their first names. Not once in my notes have I ever called Hammond George.
Well, it's probably because you have so many other Georges.
That's fair. George definitely is like a block in my mind. That is probably fair. But you would think I'd have a weirdness with Daniel too.
No. We started Stargate before you guys were together.
Fair. That's fair.
We're just friends at the time. You didn't have that block yet.
That's true.
And like I know with Hammond, now I can't think of his real name, but I like jump back and forth between his real name and Hammond all the time.
Yeah.
Like when I talk about him. So, but I don't think I've never called him George. I never remember what his first name is. Probably because you don't. So
probably. So they're going to go try to save the Tok'ra Goa'uld people things. And before they leave, Sam calls her dad and he's like, "Why are you calling me?" And she's like, "Dad, you just told me you have cancer and I'm about to go on a mission and I'm not going to be able to check on you." And he's basically like, "I don't care. Go do your job. Like, I don't need you."
Yeah. And like, I do, as weird as the intro was, I do like that we followed up from last week's storyline. It wasn't like we dramatically switched to a new story like we normally do.
Correct. But so Hammond sees her on the phone and like overhears her a little bit and like is like, "Hey, like, are you okay?" Because obviously, unbeknownst to us, Hammond already knows all of this stuff. Right. Because I think the Hammond and General Carter relationship was massively downplayed in the first episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And Sam is like, he says he's doing fine, but I don't believe him. And Hammond is like, basically like, "No, I wouldn't believe him either. He moved here because he wants to be near you." And she's like, "But now I'm leaving." And he's like, "It's fine. Like, we'll just give you temporary leave. We'll replace you on SG1 for the time being. You go be with your dad." And she goes, "To be fair, I'm kind of the most necessary part of this particular mission."
Right.
And she doesn't say it in a disrespectful way. I really appreciate the way she says it, but I'm also like, you're going to send these people to go invade a Goa'uld, like, and granted, I know we know the Tok'ra are good people, blah blah blah, but they are Goa'uld,
right?
Like by physical makeup. You're going to send a team to invade the camp of a Goa'uld without the only person who may have any information that could save them.
Yes, correct.
Probably not your brightest idea.
Not at all.
And Sam's just like, "Plus, I know my dad doesn't want me to be there." And he's like, "That's not true. Like, your dad loves you." And she goes, "Sure, he loves me, but my dad's a soldier. He would never let me see him losing a battle." And Hammond goes, "You are so much more like your father than you will ever understand." Painful. So then we go to SG1, who has followed the coordinates and lands on a planet covered with sand and no traces of like anyone having been there. And I will just stop here and say that the editing on this episode, at least in how it is appearing on Netflix, is garbage in terms of transitions between scenes. There's no crossfading. There's no fading in and out of commercials. Shit just goes black and then like opens on a new scene. And I was like, for a second, I thought there was something wrong with my like TV.
I did too. I thought my episode cut out.
And then it continued and I go, "Oh no, this is just like edited about as well as I edit the podcast." Great, cool. Actually, my transitions are better on the podcast.
I was gonna say we usually have decent transitions, so
I was perturbed by that. So a lot of my like when things switch to different scenes, I just got angry
Me
because
too. I just got thrown off every time, and I was like so into the episode that when it happened, I was like, well, this is just kind of like
yes, it was so jarring. Sam tells them though that even though it looks like no one's been there, they should head to the sand dunes, and she just kind of like feels it because Sam's just going on her gut. So they follow her, and Jack's like, yeah, I see nothing. Jack is a very sourpuss for this whole episode, and it seems very out of place in terms of the fact that like no one else is on the same page as him. But then by the end of the episode, I feel like I'm kind of on the same page as him.
and it doesn't feel out of character, even though it feels out of place.
Yes, no, it's very
So,
much in Jack's character to be completely sarcastic and untrusting, but like everyone else has like got in line with this, and Jack's just like saying asinine things.
yeah. But also,
And
like, to be fair, Tilk knows of the Tok'ra. So he
Yeah.
knows that they're the good version, essentially.
Yeah,
So he's not as worried about it from a like, they're going to kill us or not. Daniel tends to be more trusting of other groups.
Daniel tends to believe that everybody is exactly who they say they are all of
Right.
the time, even when they're trying to murder him.
Yeah. And then Sam just happens to have like all this insight from Jolinar. So she also like doesn't feel sketched out. So like,
And Jack's
because
just
her and Tilk have the inside information. Daniel would be the only one I would assume would be like Jack, except for the part that he trusts everyone.
yeah, that's fair. And Jack's just kind of like also perturbed by the fact that no one else is questioning anything,
Right.
and so he like has that added layer of just like being Jack.
Yeah, he's got to take it a little bit to another level.
Yeah. But so he's like, I don't believe that anything's going on here. Like, nobody's here. This is a little ridiculous. And Teal'c's like, well, I mean, the Tok'ra are like the most stealthy type of Goa'uld that could be. And then they just like guerrilla warfare pop out of the fucking sand.
Because they have to be stealthy. There's only so few of them.
Yes. Well, we don't know that at that time. We're just
No,
like,
but I'm
oh,
just saying in general.
yes. I'm like, oh, shit. So they pop out. But they're like, we don't want to hurt you. We're not going to attack you unless we have to. And Jack's like, same. So I guess we're at a fucking standstill. And they see Teal'c and they're like, huh, this guy, that's a Jaffa who works for Apophis. Like, let's not trust him. And he's like, yeah, but like, I don't anymore. I'm like, yeah, so who do you serve? He's like, I'll work with the Tauri. And we're like, what? And then Sam just starts, what's that?
So that's preposterous.
Yes. And then Sam just starts talking to them by name.
Yeah. That would,
They're like,
that would be very jarring as a human. Or as
right. They're like, how do you know our name? She's like, I don't know. Okay. I have questions. So many questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, my toes are really cold and I thought I had socks in that bag and I don't. So I apologize for the rummaging that was just happening.
Okay.
Where was I? And then we get a really weird, jarring, quick flashback to Hammond answering the phone in his office, and it is Jacob calling him, and he like bolts from SGC. So I know things are not good.
Not great. Yeah.
But then we go back to this Tok'ra planet, and she's like, no, I know your names because Jolinar used to be in my head. And they were like, what do you mean used to be? And there she's like, oh, sorry, he's dead. Oh, so Sam's like, Jolinar's dead. They are all sad, but she's like, but we're here to form an alliance with you. And they go, okay, we're going to take you to talk to somebody, but you have to leave your weapons here. And Jack's like, the fuck we do?
He's like, we don't know you. Why are we just doing all of these things like we do?
So everybody is like, no, Jack, it's okay. We can trust them. Man, I hate when Jack's right.
I know.
And like, and I also hate when it's way more complicated than that. Because like Jack's not right, except for that he is.
Exactly.
So they get like pulled up in this in the little gold ringy transporty thingy.
That was a great description.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's a bunch of circles that transport you.
Yes.
Yeah. And they get back into the like underground Tok'ra place, and Sam recognizes those tunnels, and she's like, wait a second. These are the same tunnels I saw in my dream that they were like escaping from. And Teal'c's like, aha, yes. Legend says that the Tok'ra build themselves underground whenever they go somewhere new, and these are crystals, and they grow new places, and then they destroy them when they leave, because I have never been able to find them before. I have tried many times.
Yes.
Um,
They're transporting to them, but
yeah.
you know, they're hidden real well.
Yes.
They're like
Oh,
the
wow.
Disney World tunnels.
That's a very, very good description. I can't imagine the Disney World tunnels just like crystallizing and regrowing new sections as you needed them, though.
Look, anything's possible with Disney. If you can dream it, you can believe it. No, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yes.
I don't know. I was like, wait, that's wrong. I have that sign on my desk at work.
Yes, if you can dream it, you can do it. That's the thing. So then Sam is like, I don't know why, but like I just have this weird bond with Martooth. I know everybody, but like with that one, it's different. There's something weird. And I was like,
I also would like to make a comment about him. His J.R. Bourne, I think is his name.
Mhm.
I know you'll probably talk about him in the future, but like
yes.
his face, because I've seen him
Mhm.
more recently and stuff, and so he's like
Yeah.
older, more distinguished. But I've been watching American Horror Story lately, and Cody Fern, who is one of the recurring characters from like season 6 or 7 up,
Yeah.
looks like he could be his son. I think they're too close in age.
Mm.
Maybe they're 15 years apart, maybe a little more, but they look so similar that it threw me off. And that's all I could think of for the first like 10 minutes I saw him.
Okay. I can safely say he will probably be my guest star that I talk about in the next episode, since it's a two-parter.
That is what I assumed. So I was like, I'm not going to talk about him. I just want to tell you how I feel about him.
It's perfectly fine. One of the trivia things on IMDb is that this is his first episode, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I know. I guess what his second episode is the next one. It's a two-parter.
I would guess.
Yeah.
That feels, look, who knows though? It's Stargate. It could be in season 5 when he comes back.
Fair enough. But also when she was like, I have a weird bond with him, it's like the memories of him are the strongest. I'm like, how does she not know what that means?
Right.
Like the fact that she felt so compelled to like trust this man, but then didn't know why. I was like,
it's because she's had these same feelings for Jack and has to keep putting them off. And she's like, this is just that weird feeling that I don't know what to do with.
I just love Jack and Sam. It hasn't been as obvious in season 2. I think they're trying to like pull away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
But what a couple.
I mean, that's the only pair you can put together. So like,
because Sam and Daniel just would not work.
They're like brother sister. Like,
yeah, they're very much brother and sister. And Teal'c's married.
All right, exactly. So
and Hammond is best friends with her dad.
Right. So
or
that guy that's in love with her that I didn't know who he was out of nowhere in that one episode.
Oh, that's right. We haven't heard from him.
We've never heard from him. I don't even know who he is.
Anyway, then we go back to real world. And by real world, I mean Earth, because this is not fictional. And Jacob is in the hospital, and Hammond like goes over to him, and he's like, how are you doing? And he's like, oh, fun fact, I'm dying.
Yeah.
And
that'll be good information to have.
Right. And Hammond is like, well, you why didn't you tell like Sam, like why didn't you bring her here? And he's like, my little girl has seen me go off to war into crazy places and do crazy things and always come back a winner, and I'm not going to have her sit here and watch me lose a battle to the only enemy I can't even see. And Hammond goes, why the? He's like, that's quite literally what she said you would say.
Right. Yes.
And he's like, she needs to be here. And he's like, but she can't because she's on a mission. And Hammond's like, I'll pull her back from the mission. And he's like, but it's important, isn't it? And Hammond's like, well, yeah, but not the point.
Every
Like,
mission's important that they go on.
yeah. And he's like, just let her go, but do me one favor. And he's like, what? He's like, tell me what she's really doing. And Hammond's like, you know, I can't fucking do that.
He really wants to know the secret mission.
And it almost feels like there's an ulterior motive. And like
I had that same feeling.
I was like, I don't want to be that person who's like, I don't trust this man dying of cancer right now, but also
Okay,
I don't
I will
trust
be
this
then.
man.
I don't trust this man dying of cancer right now.
I was like, there just feels like there's something else. Like, why does he care so much? I mean, I don't know. I guess if my kid was doing a secret mission and one of my oldest friends was the only one who knew where she really was and wouldn't tell me, like I'd feel some type of way about it too.
But also, like military people, like
know.
they just kind of accept it. Like I can't be in the military. I'm nosy. I would ask a lot of questions that I can't know the answer to, and I would not last very long.
Well, I mean, and like even in military families where things aren't classified, like so my uncle is in the military and he was special forces in the army and he was part of it. This is now no longer secret because it happened so long ago, but he was part of the troop that stormed Saddam's palace in Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
We knew when he was in Kuwait. His mother, my grandmother, did not. He specifically told us, this is where I told her I was. And this is where I told her I am going. Like I'm not. And so we, for her own like health and safety, like we still had contact with him. We still knew where he was. We were able to talk to him. But for her mental well-being, we lied.
Yeah. I have friends who have done that, like who were in the military and they were like deep in it and they told their family one thing and they were like, I'm never going to tell my family anything different. I don't want them to like.
I mean, and after the fact, when he was home, he told her where he really was. And like, it's not a secret like that my whole family knows, but like in the moment when, she couldn't have done anything anyway, except worry.
Yeah.
What was he going to do?
Right.
So I do get it. But like if I'm dying and the last thing I want to know is where my child actually is right now, and you're not going to tell me, I'm probably going to be angry.
I mean, that's true. And if you're actually dying, fine. But it doesn't feel, I think Hammond's making the correct choice.
Because I believe in my soul that Hammond makes the correct choice always, all of the time. And I would trust him with more than I would trust probably anyone other than like my parents.
Fair.
I agree, but not because I understand it in this moment.
Right. I mean, I don't know what's to come.
Yeah.
But I also felt very sketched out.
Good. I'm glad we're on the same page on that because I thought I was being an asshole.
No, I was like, I put like, oh, Jake really wants to know what's going on. And I was like, it's more than just like,
yeah.
It's like, of course you're going to ask. Like, even if you know you can't know, you're going to ask. Yeah. Then he like pushed it.
Yeah.
And it was like, you went a bit too far knowing it's not going to change anything. Like,
right.
So.
Yeah. So then we go back to fictional world and alien world. And Martouf takes them to Garshaw, the leader of the Tok'ra, and she basically knows who Jack and Daniel are because of them killing Ra. And then they're like, there's this weird thing where Daniel's like, oh, like I get it now. That makes sense. Tok'ra. We're fighting against Ra. Like that's the resistance. And I was like, you mean to make me believe that this resistance has only been going on as long as you have been fighting? But then I guess maybe that's not true because like Ra was the lead system lord.
Yeah.
Before, I don't know. But like Daniel's like, oh yeah, duh. Daniel and his inability to remember ancient languages until someone already explained them to him is a little
Right.
annoying.
Right. Like I don't know ancient languages, so I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That tracks." But like, you're right. They don't
It's like
train.
if I was dating Daniel, that would be the thing that I bitch to my friends about, like when I'm drinking, and I'm like, I love him, but sometimes he pretends he knows what I'm talking about after it's already been explained to him.
I love how you say if I was dating Daniel, because you are in fact dating Daniel, just a different one.
Yes. But like if I was dating Daniel Jackson,
Right.
that would be no, my Daniel, the thing that I bitch to my friends about, and he knows this, and the one thing that annoys me is that he apologizes for fucking everything, even when it's like a million times not his fault. He'll be like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, stop. Stop. Don't apologize. But if he pretended to know ancient languages after someone already told him the translation, I would also bitch about that.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Fair.
Then, so they like, she's like, tell me how you came to know Jolinar and everything. And like Sam starts telling the whole story that we also just already saw in the flashback. So like, what was the point of having it previously on? And then Martouf gets like visibly uncomfortable with the fact that Jolinar's host died. And I'm like, again, how is no one else seeing this?
Right.
Then we flip back to the hospital really quick, where Jacob is in defib and Hammond is like, oh God, and he's watching how bad it really, really is. And the doctor is like resuscitates him and Hammond's like, so doctor, like what is the deal? And he goes, well, it could be 5 minutes or it could be 5 days. Here's the thing about that. Both 5 minutes and 5 days, very, very small numbers.
Yes.
In 0 of those cases is he not dying, like actively currently dying
within the week. Like
yeah, like that's not like oh, everyone's slowly dying, or like I have a terminal disease and I may be dying. Like that's a like actively in this moment dying.
Mm-hmm.
The continuous tense of that verb.
Yes.
So that's not ideal.
Not great.
Then we go back to the Chokra and they are questioning Sam about whether she killed Jolinar, because they're like, well, all Chokra hosts are like voluntary and you weren't voluntary. So how do we know that you didn't just like kill Jolinar?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing about that accusation that pisses me off is like, if they knew how to kill a Goa'uld and save the host, it'd be a very different show.
Yes.
Like we would still have Kowalski.
Mm-hmm.
Sharae would be back.
Gara would be back.
In fact, they probably would have like wiped out the entire Goa'uld population while saving all of the human hosts and restoring justice to the universe.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's not a power they have. No. Which I wish that their answer to her question would have been like, we literally don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They just puttered around like imbeciles.
They're like, why would we do that? Why?
Their inability to straightforwardly answer any of the Tok'ra questions is why they're kept prisoners.
All of their answers are basically just trust us. We just didn't do it. Like,
yeah, no, there are answers. There are legitimate answers to all of these questions. Like, and later when the council asks them, like, what do you have that could benefit us?
And they're like, Daniel, and he's like, I don't know. Technology.
Like, I don't know. I guess we have some technology. You have already figured out that the Chapai is not made by the Goa'uld, and that there's technology that is bigger than the Goa'uld. You have information about star systems that the Goa'uld doesn't have access to or know about. You've figured out things about the gate that aren't known by the Goa'uld. You have technology to keep the Goa'uld larva alive outside of a human body. And you know Goa'uld's secrets,
Yes.
but you don't have anything to help
Right.
them. I was so mad.
Yeah, no. I was like, how do we just not have an answer? At a minimum, like Tilk, how does he not have an answer?
Right, like did we not meet Thor? Did we not meet
Right.
Thor and watch Thor and the Asgardians destroy an entire fleet of what was his name? The one that sounds like we're choking.
Yeah.
Him. Yes. Heruer. Yeah.
We're
So
besties with the Nox and the people of the
right.
light, the land of
Right.
light. Like, we have good partners already.
Yes. They have the fucking
Like, the Goa'uld have technology, but the Nox have magic.
right. And we have medicine. We have the ability to have a virus that rewrites your DNA. Like, granted, we shouldn't turn everyone into those weird, creepy waspies, but like it kills the
We could.
symbiote. We could. We have the venom to kill. Although, do they have the venom? Because didn't they destroy the?
I do think they indeed destroy all of it, but they are also military, so they probably hid something somewhere. So
And they know how to get back to that planet.
exactly. So like, it's not a lost cause. It's just a
Yeah. So
probably
basically,
not gonna use
the
that.
number one flaw of SG1 is the ability to answer a goddamn question.
Yes, to use their words.
Um,
A doctor, a scientist, a military man, and a Jaffa cannot use words.
Right. Like Teal, I'll give him a pass.
Right. But
Like
he
half
also like knows how to talk to the Goa'uld better than anyone
Right,
else. Like
right.
he should be able to
That's-
talk to Tok'ra better than like humans.
But like also, isn't Daniel's whole purpose of being in Stargate his ability to communicate with other races?
Yes.
Like it's
And they already speak English.
His entire existence on the team is as an anthropological negotiator and diplomat.
Yeah.
And your response is, I don't know.
Right.
I apologize that we jumped ahead to that scene, but like I was angry. But basically, so when they're like, okay, I guess we kind of trust you, they let Yosef, who is the host body, speak freely and like explain the truly symbiotic relationship that they have with the Goa'uld and how the Tok'ra like work. And she shows them this lady whose name is Sarush, and she is dying at like 200 years old because her body's giving up, and the Goa'uld is going to die with her unless I can get a new host. And they're like, I thought Goa'uld lived longer, and they're like, Goa'uld do, but Tok'ra don't. And they're like, because they're like, Sam's like, oh, because you don't use the sarcophagus, and they're like, yes, because we believe it would make us evil. And Daniel's like, can confirm, will do.
Yep, it can.
Can confirm. So they're like, who here would like to be Salmok's new host? And they're like, the fuck?
I really thought Sam was going to say she would for a minute. And I was like, what is happening right now?
I did too. And I was like, but the Tok'ra was like, well, you said you wanted an alliance. What other alliance could you possibly want? And they're like, a military alliance, like a diplomatic alliance, a friendship, literally anything but becoming one of you.
Right.
And they're like, yes, but we can't have a military alliance with you. You blew up motherships of Goa'uld that had our people on it. And they're like, yeah, because we were saving our planet. And they're like, oh, I guess you are correct. I understand now. And I was like, that was giving me, it sketched me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're
like a too convenient acceptance.
Exactly. And they're like, okay, so we will in fact take you to meet with the council. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, but like Jack's like, are we prisoners here? And Garsha's like, you're not prisoners, but you can't leave.
Right. Which is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
Look at the legal definition.
so Marchuk's like, hey Sam, can we talk privately? And Jack's like, no. And Sam goes, Jack, cut it out. He's not gonna hurt me. So then Jack makes some weird joke about, okay, son, bring her home before 11. And I was like, don't pretend to be Sam's dad. That makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
Because also her dad's dying, but also I ship you guys, and I don't think she has a daddy complex, but she then also I think about her dad dying, and she definitely has a daddy complex. And I'm having so many thoughts about their sexual relationship that I shouldn't be right now.
Yes, that's not the time. I
That
didn't
is
go to any of
that
those
is
places.
that is the rabbit hole I went down just from the words "Hey son," which probably tells you more about my mental health than anything about the show.
I think that's correct. I think that's probably true.
So they go outside to talk in the sand, and Martouf is like, here's the thing, Jolinar is actually a girl. And she's like, what? He's like, well, okay, well, like, to be fair, Goa'ulds don't have genders, but like Jolinar always had female hosts because our two Goa'ulds were in love, and so because they were in love, we were in love, and everything's symbiotic, and when we're in love, they're in love, and you're so beautiful, please become Selmak's host.
Yeah. So then we can be. I was like, is Sam gonna marry a Tok'ra? Like,
what? Yeah, what's happening? And so then Sam gets really upset, and she's like, I feel like I'm schizophrenic because I have all of my own feelings, but then I also have all of Jolinar's feelings, and like they're so intense. Like she's like, I don't even know how to comprehend a love that's been like around for 100 years. And like it was actually like really beautiful the way she was explaining it. And then he was like, well, like maybe you can tell me without words. And I really thought he was gonna kiss her.
I did too. I was like, that is such a line. And then it wasn't.
Right. And then they just put their hands out and they were like holding hands and like feeling each other's like energy. And I was like, that is so beautiful.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this ended up being a beautiful, not like an annoying, obnoxious moment.
Yeah, like I love the love that she has for him that she doesn't have for him. Like she's like, and she's like, because it's not just like in my head, like it's not a memory. I'm feeling it too. I understand. And then Daniel interrupts their love fest and is like, hey, Sam, we have to go to the council meeting. And Daniel is clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which is a little presumptuous coming from Mr. I have fallen in love and had a relationship with an alien on every fucking planet we've been to, Jackson.
While I'm married. Like, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, they've all turned out pretty badly except for Sha'Rah, which then actually did turn out pretty badly because now she's like old. So like I guess he's right in his trepidation, but again,
he's a little judgy.
You have so little room to talk,
right?
That I don't think a Goa'uld could fit in the room that you have to talk.
Very true. That is a very accurate way to put that.
So that was infuriating. But then they go to the council meeting, and the whole way there, Daniel and Garsha are like chatting logistics of how these tunnels work. And Jack follows this other guy into his private quarters, and there's like a weird ball thing, and then like that's uncomfortable. And he is like, this doesn't seem like a private quarter. There's no doors. And he's like, we don't need doors. We share everything. There is no privacy. And I was like, that's culty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that definitely sounds like a cult.
And then we like see that they actually are growing the council chambers like as they speak, and like the crystals are creating a new room. And then we get to this scene where the council asks what they can provide, and I'm not going to reiterate how stupid it is because I ranted about it for 10 minutes already.
They've done that.
Except for the council's like, this is why we can't trust you. Look what you've sent here. And SG3 is there.
Yeah. Good timing.
Great timing. And Jack's like, Colonel Makepeace, which I forgot was his name, but I also hate that that's his name.
Dude, I also hate it.
And he was like, why are you here? And he's like, we're here to get Sam. And Sam's like, what? And he's like, your father death.
Died.
And they're like, okay, we will continue this conversation, but please just let Sam go back. So, because her dad's dying. And the council's like, absolutely not. You know too much. Haha, stay here forever. Now you really are prisoners.
Right.
And then they were like, but nothing. And they're like, if you don't want people to know where you are, just leave. And they're like, not how it works. Which is kind of bullshit because like that
That's
could
exactly
be
how it works.
that's exactly how it works. Like
Right.
you could, if you have all of this ready-made, build a tunnel wherever you land kind of thing, we'll even give you an unoccupied planet to land on.
Absolutely.
But then of course they don't say that because they don't know how to talk.
Right. Yeah. No.
And they're
They've
like,
forgotten what words are.
and they're like, you want our whole families to know that you're dead? And they're like, yeah, sorry about it. And then
They're like, but you can live here and like be chill and hang out with us. Like, you just can't leave ever.
And then there's like a close up on Sam like crying, and then it's like to be continued. End of episode, done.
Yeah. I was like, poor Sam. She's having a real rough time. The new love of her life, her dad's dying, she's trapped forever.
So much. But I know we don't usually have predictions with Stargate because it is such a shit show of continuity. But because it is a two-parter, I would love to hear your predictions for the resolution of this episode.
I assume her dad is not going to die because I think he's kind of doing something sketchy.
And that's a valid prediction.
I think they're all going to end up being released, whether it's by force or by free will. I do not know. I don't know that they're going to buddy with the Toker today, but I do think that is somewhere that's going to go in the future.
My prediction on that, and this is a genuine prediction, that is not based on things that I know from the future, is that they won't become buddy with the Tok'ra as a whole, but Martouf will / Lantash will be team SG-1.
I mean, I think he already is.
Right.
So that's fair. And, maybe him and Sam will fall in love and get married and
she'll have weird half gold babies. I don't know if
that works.
I don't know either.
That sounds
bad. No, but it couldn't because the gold has nothing to do with the reproduction because Share's baby would have been fucked up then.
Well, it's Apophysis. I don't know. We don't know what her baby is.
No, but we know that he bred it to be a new host, so it's definitely human.
Oh.
Because Apophis and Share are both technically human.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Fine. Yeah. I think Martouf will probably help them escape.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably valid.
But I agree. I don't think General Carter is going to die today.
Not today.
I would love if Colonel Makepeace did, not because he did anything wrong, just because I don't want to have to say that name ever again.
I don't want to deal with him anymore.
No. It's only like the third time we've had to, but it's never been pleasant.
No, it's never worked out for the best.
No. Speaking of things that are unpleasant, who would you like to punch?
I guess I want to punch Daniel for being useless. Nobody was really terrible. Even the Tok'ra, I get what they're saying.
That's fair.
And they do have such a small group that they do have to protect them. They're not going to torture SG-1. They're just you can't get rid of our secrets, so we have to just keep you. But we're going to take care of you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Daniel
was, in fact, very useless this episode.
Yeah.
But I think I will punch the unnamed Tok'ra council member who has a secret ball in his private chambers that are not private, because he felt sketchy.
That's fair.
He didn't really do anything in particular to piss me off, but he sketched me out, and I don't have good feelings about his
intentions.
Next steps. Yeah, his intentions.
Yeah. Yep. Totally get that.
Who is your MVP?
Sam. She's been through a lot this episode.
Sam has been through a lot this episode.
And she's been the only one that's kind of kept everything together.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm going to give my MVP to someone in the real world, not the fictional world, because General Hammond, as much as like I felt like he was a little not himself this episode,
yeah,
his intentions and what he was trying to accomplish and what he was trying to do, it very much proves that despite the fact that he's a general and this is a military operation, they worked so close and so long in such secret that like these are his family now.
absolutely.
And he cares about Sam like he would care about his own kid. And that is why I pick him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Okay.
I think he might have been my second because I just
That's fair. I mean, Sam was definitely my second. Actually, Sam probably would have been my first, but I knew you were going to pick her, so she wasn't my first.
right.
So yeah, that is the episode. It was a really good episode. It just was also weird. And it was the first time that I was genuinely angry at the quality of the editing and filming and everything.
It was
And like
weird quality, weird like feelings, like it was weird production, but then like the episode itself like fits so well into the story that we're not used to. And like,
right. Like, could you imagine if we had the production quality of like the Gamekeeper or the Tin Man with this story?
oh yes. Dream.
So yeah. I sometimes forget that I'm watching a show from the 90s until I get to an episode that is very much reminds me that I'm watching a show from the 90s. And then I'm like, ooh.
Yes.
Right.
Well, speaking of 90s, we'll be back
yeah.
there.
That's what I was saying, especially with having watched the movie for our Thriller Thursday episode that is coming up this week, which we did announce on last week's Thriller Thursday, but it is
urban legend, and it is set in the 90s as well.
Was it set was it filmed in the 90s also? Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely a 90s movie.
Is front to back 90s slasher. That is exactly what the
front to back. But I will get more into my thoughts on it. Impressed in a way that I didn't think it would be for the 90s. And watching this episode of Stargate and then following it up with a 90s movie reminded me that the 90s didn't have exclusively atrocious film production. It's just that television had no budget in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
TV, the thing is, in 2022, TV and film are almost interchangeable in how well things are produced and edited and the quality, and film and TV actors going back and forth between film and TV. And in the 90s, that is very much not how things were. You were either a film actor or a TV actor, and they weren't the same thing. The budget was not the same. The quality was not the same.
The budget's still not quite the same, but
that's fair.
It's also like working in music. It's a different budget for music, for film and TV, but it's reasonable enough that they can still produce the same quality.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, there's also newer technology gives you a budget or a better ability to produce good work on a lower budget.
Right.
Because even I produce decent work and I have no budget.
Negative budget. We have negative budget.
That's actually accurate. But yeah, so we are going to continue our 90s love fest or not. We'll see. This week for Thriller Thursday, where we review the movie Urban Legend. You can send us your thoughts on this episode, your predictions for part 2 of our weird mid-season 2-parter, which is not like a end of there's not like a month break between the seasons or anything. It's just a weird middle of the season 2-parter. You can send us your thoughts on that at deathandaliens@gmail.com, and you can follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. I will try to remember to put pictures of my found poetry on Instagram.
You can. If I find where I put my pen, there it is.
You can follow me on all of the social medias at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CECloud13.
We will see you guys on Thriller Thursday. Also, happy Halloween. Today is October 30th.
Hey!
Not when we record this, but when we send it out, it is October 30th. So happy
It is.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
We will see you guys later. Bye.
Yeah.